Hi, welcome to Health Chat. I'm Dr. Alancia Wynn. Today we're going to be talking about the holidays. The holidays. Who does not love the holidays? The family, the friends, the frivolity, the food, the travel, the stress, the shopping, the cooking, the crazy uncle who always wants to talk about politics at the dinner table. Yes, the holidays are great, but there are definitely some things that can make the holidays stressful. People worry about their diet and people worry about the stress and the craziness of it all. So we're going to talk about today some things that can make your holidays a little bit calmer, a little bit more fun, a little bit less hectic and crazy so that you can actually look forward to the holidays, which is what the season is supposed to be about. Now, you may have heard that the average American gains somewhere between 5 and 10 pounds between Thanksgiving and New Year's. And you're thinking, fortunately, that's a myth. I don't know where that number came from. Nobody knows where that number came from. It kind of just got out into the ethers and everybody quotes it like it's real. No study has ever shown that. The actual number from actual studies shows it's closer to 1 to 2 pounds. If you're already overweight before the holidays start, that number tends to be a little bit higher, so you may be closer to 3, 4 pounds, but 5, 10 pounds, typically not happening. The problem with that, though, is if you do that year after year after year, and you never lose those extra pounds. So you gain a pound or two this year, a pound or two next year, a pound or two after that. Next thing you know, you're 10 pounds overweight, and it's just from that couple of pounds around the holidays. So we're going to talk about ways to avoid that. But it's also not just weight gain that kind of challenges our health during the holiday season. Stress, lack of sleep, travel, all of those can lead to health issues. So today we're going to, like I said, we're going to talk about a couple of those kind of things. So first off, we're going to start talking about the weight gain, because that's the one thing that people talk about during the holidays. Oh, all the food, it's going to make me gain weight. So how do you avoid gaining weight during the holidays? It's pretty simple. You watch your intake and you exercise regularly, just like the rest of the year. A lot of times people find it harder during the holiday season to do that. It's harder to eat right because you're going to parties, you got cookies at the office, you may be drinking more alcohol, especially if you're going to those parties. There's eggnog, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You got your grandma's fruitcake, you know the deal. So it's also harder to find time to exercise due to the time crunch. You're shopping, you're cooking, you're trying to figure out the travel, you got your kids' school plays, you got all this stuff going on. So how do you counter all this? I am so glad you asked. I heard you ask, so let's talk about it. So the first thing, you want to limit those goodies. I know those Christmas cookies only come around this time of year, and I know, you only get your uncle's stuffing this time of year, but you want to keep track of your calorie intake and you want to figure it in. There's not just the big meals, it's all those parties and all those other things throughout the whole season. And you want to keep track of your calorie intake of those goodies. So you want to kind of, if you normally get 1,200 calories a day, you want to figure out how you can add that cookie or that eggnog or whatever it is into that 1,200 calories a day. So you want to make sure you make time to exercise. Now you may have to adjust your routine workout schedule because you may just be busier and it's not realistic to go to the gym for 30 to 45 minutes if you got to get to the post office or you got to get to the grocery store, you got to do all the running around that you have to do. Fortunately, they have done studies that show that 3 10-minute workouts is just as good for your body as one 30-minute workout. So take a 10-minute walk in the morning, a 10-minute walk at lunchtime, and a 10-minute walk either before or after dinner. You got your 30 minutes in, and it didn't put you in that much of a time crunch. So you want to watch the portions of those higher calorie foods. So if you have those foods that you only get this time of year, you also want to kind of pick and choose. So if you are at a party or at someone's house for dinner or at a restaurant or something like that, and you want a higher calorie food, then you want to kind of say, okay, well, this is important to me, so therefore I'm not going to eat this other stuff that is not as important. What I mean by that, if you go to a party and they have, oh, my friend makes this amazing pie that she only makes this time of year. I really want that pie. Well, so maybe I won't have the roll with dinner, or maybe I won't have something else because I want to save room and calories for the thing that is important to me. You also want to limit your alcohol intake. There are several different reasons for this. Well, number one, the obvious. You don't want to drink too much and have all the risks from being inebriated. But there's a lot of empty calories in alcohol, whether you're drinking beer, wine, or spirits, especially if you're drinking spirits. If you think about it, you have the calories from the alcohol itself and the calorie of whatever the mixer is you're mixing it in. So some drinks can be 400 calories or more for one drink. So, and also when you're drinking, alcohol makes you hungrier, so you tend to eat more when you're drinking. And also you tend to make not as good food choices. You don't think about the calories as much. You just kind of mindlessly graze. You kind of say, I'll just go ahead and eat this. I don't care. So not only is it just the calories in the drink itself, it makes you make less good food choices as well. So you want to limit the alcohol when you're at a party. So a good way to do it is you want to alternate one alcoholic drink with one non-alcoholic drink. So if you have a glass of wine, then have a glass of water. If you have, a gin and tonic, next drink, make it be a club soda or something like that, whatever you prefer. And if you feel like, oh, well, people are going to think something wrong if I'm not drinking and they're going to think I'm not being social, most times they won't even notice the difference because they're not going to know. Nobody's paying attention to what you're eating. No one's paying attention to what you're drinking. If you are concerned that they may, if you're going to feel self-conscious, get yourself a glass of club soda, put a lime in it. No one will ever know that there's no alcohol in it. And also associated with that is you want to stay hydrated, because a lot of times if you're dehydrated, you will mistake that thirst for hunger. And so you will eat, but then you're still thirsty, so you will still feel like you need, so you just keep eating and eating and eating, but you're not really hungry, you're thirsty. So if you stay hydrated, then you will be able to tell the difference between being thirsty or feeling hungry, because you won't be thirsty because you'll be hydrated. And you want to follow a well-balanced, healthy diet aside from events. So if you think about, let's say, the Christmas season, and you have your office Christmas party and your spouse's office Christmas party and the event at school for the kids, and then you have Christmas dinner and you have Christmas Eve maybe with one family or the other. And so if you say, okay, well, we've got these events, so for the rest of the time when we're not going to these events, we're going to make sure that we eat healthy. We're not going to just throw it all aside and just eat unhealthy for the whole season. If you focus on the things that are important, then you can enjoy it. And so you can indulge a little bit more than you would the rest of the year, because it's not all of an indulgence. Again, like I said, just at the event, you focus on the things that are important to you. You say, okay, well, these events are important. So if I want to loosen the reins a little bit at this party or at my in-laws for Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas Eve, then I need to be sure I eat healthy the rest of the time and get my exercise in. And if you are the one that's cooking the big feast, you want to think about ways to make those holiday foods healthier. So you want to think about some ingredient substitutions that will still give you that same flavor and that same texture, but maybe a little bit healthier. And so some examples is you may want to use evaporated skim milk as opposed to cream. You may want to use margarine as opposed to butter. You may want to use yogurt instead of sour cream. If you go online and just look up healthy recipe substitutions, or you go to some of the magazines that specialize in healthier eating, you can find all kinds of ideas and try them out before the big day. I mean, obviously you don't want to change something on Thanksgiving dinner and then everyone say, well, what's different about this? So you may want to try it ahead of time, and then that way you can tweak it and say, okay, well, that's not quite right. Let me add a little bit something or change a little bit something. Because you can make those foods healthier. I'm not saying that everything has to be super healthy, but you can shave a couple hundred calories off of here or 100 calories off of there, and it'll make a huge difference. And as long as the food is still good, then no one will even notice the difference. But of course, you want to, still be able to enjoy the holiday. You don't want to sit there and stress about every single bite of food that goes into your mouth or every single sip of wine that goes into your mouth. You do want to enjoy the holiday, because next thing we're going to talk about is stress. So, what causes stress during the holidays? It can come from several sources. It can come from that time crunch, trying to get all the shopping, cooking, decorating done. It can come from traveling, sitting in a crowded airport or driving on a crowded road, sitting in a train that's elbow to elbow. Stress can also come from spending time with relatives with whom you may or may not get along. Just because they're family, just because you're related to them, doesn't mean you have to like them all the time. And also there's the stress from being lonely, because there are some people who have no friends or family to share the holidays with, and that causes a sense of loneliness, and that can certainly be a level of stress as well. And you do want to try to decrease the stress, because The studies have shown that a lot more people have heart attacks and other illnesses that are related to stress during the holidays, during other times of the season, other seasons of the year, pardon me. So you do want to try to decrease the stress as much as possible. And again, decreasing the stress increases your enjoyment of the season, right? That's what the purpose of the season is, enjoyment. So how can we just decrease the stress? Number one, don't try to do everything. I mean, you don't have to have a Martha Stewart holiday. You don't have to try to be Superman or Superwoman and do everything yourself and do everything perfectly. Enlist the help of your family or friends. Say, hey, can you do this? Or hey, can you grab this at the store? Hey, if I give you a list, can you do this? Or hey, can you take the packages to the post office? Or, whatever it is, be specific, because they may not know. If you just say, oh, just do this, if you've always done it, they may not know what to do. So if you are specific, can you do this? Give them a list if you want to send them to the market. If you be very specific about what help they can help you with, and they will probably be happy to help. And you do want to be realistic about what you can do, because if you come up with this list of 1,000 things to do and you're working full time and you've got a family and you've got all this stuff that you are just ordinarily busy all the time anyway, and you're trying to add this whole other thing on top of it, that's going to add stress to it. So make the big plans, great, but then be realistic. Okay, can I really get all this stuff done in the amount of time I have? If not, just start saying, okay, well, I won't do that, or maybe I'll do this smaller, or maybe maybe I'll have somebody else do this. So just be realistic about your expectations. You also want to start early with the preparations. Do it a little bit each day rather than trying to do everything those days or weeks leading up to the big day. There are certainly some things you can do ahead of time. So if you make a list of all the things you need to do, make a list of all the things you want to do, then whittle that list down to all the things you need to do, and then figure out, okay, what can I farm out to someone else to do for me? And then the things that you have to do or you want to do, that you enjoy doing, figure out a schedule for how you can get it all done a little bit at a time, rather than, like I said, waiting till 2 days before Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve or anything like that. You might also want to consider buying your gifts online instead of going to the mall, because that'll save time. Because that way you can shop in the time when the stores may be closed, in the evening, and they will be delivered right to you, and then you don't have to wait in the lines in the store. And you can kind of pick and choose, and you don't have the stress of all the crowds and all the hustle and bustle and people grabbing things from each other and that kind of thing. You also might want to consider having those same gifts shipped to your destination. If you're traveling for a holiday, if you buy stuff online, instead of having it shipped to you, just have it shipped to the place where you're going to be for the holiday, or have it shipped directly to the recipient. Even if you buy stuff locally, wrap them up, put them in a box, take them down to your shipper of choice and have them shipped. That way, that's one less thing that you have to worry about on the day you're traveling. Less stress on the days that you're traveling. You also want to try to travel on off-peak days or times if possible. If driving, you do want to allow more time than you think it will take, maybe even twice as long as you think it will take. Because you want to allow for breaks. You want to be able to, stop, get something to eat, get out, stretch your legs, walk around. You don't want to feel like you have to go, pedal to the metal the whole time trying to get there, and then getting stressed because you can't move because the traffic is bad. You also want to avoid feeling stressed if the traffic is even worse than anticipated. Because if you built in a time cushion and the traffic is worse than anticipated, you will still arrive on time. Whereas if you don't allow enough time and the traffic is worse than anticipated, then you have that stress of feeling like you're going to be late. People are going to be waiting for you. People are going to be worried about you. And then you may even try to drive recklessly or faster, than is smart, trying to make up that time, which would increase your risk for having an accident. And you want to think about the needs of other people in your party when you're traveling. Whether you're traveling with someone who's elderly, whether you're traveling with children, whether you're traveling with pets, especially if you're traveling with some combination of all of these, you do want to plan accordingly. You want to make sure that everybody has everything they need. So you think about everything that they need on a daily basis: medications, toys for children or pets, snacks for the road, things to keep the children occupied, whether it's games or puzzles or something like that. So you think about all the things that you might need to keep everybody calm during the travel, and then plan accordingly when you're packing, so that you have all those things, so you don't have any surprises where you did not think about something, so you did not plan for something, because planning is key. Again, you don't want to stress out about the planning, but you do want to try to think of all the things that you might need and plan accordingly. The season is also a good time to start practicing meditation. Now, when I say that, people I either get one of two reactions. I either get the eye roll of, oh, here we go, or I get the, I don't know what that is, I don't know how to do that because I can't turn my brain off. And both groups of people are perfect people for meditation, because when you hear meditation, you think of, a yoga class, or you're sitting there chanting with incense and music and all that. No, meditation does not have to be all that. It certainly can be, and certainly some people enjoy doing that. But when I talk about meditation, it's more just mindfulness. It's more just focusing on essentially nothing. And a way I always teach my patients to start to learn how to meditate is to just close your eyes and take some slow, deep breaths in and focus on breathing in and breathing out. Don't think about anything else. Just think about your breath going in and going out. And your mind will wander when you first start, because you'll start thinking about the laundry that needs to get done, or the homework that you need to help with, or that fight you had with your boss, or whatever it is. But when you find your mind wandering, just kind of come back to focusing on the breath. And just like with anything else, it takes practice. That's why they call it a practice. And the more you do that, the more you can use that when you are feeling stressed out. Because it's a good way to just, if you're in a stressful situation that you can't get out of, for example, if you're among relatives that they are fighting, they're not fighting with you, but they're fighting among themselves, and you can't leave the room for whatever reason, that's a good thing to just sit, close your eyes, focusing on your breath, and then you're not in that stressful situation, even though you're in that stressful situation. And when you start off, you may only be able to do it for a minute or two at a time, and that's okay, because the more you do it, the better at it you'll get, the less your mind will wander, the longer you'll be able to do it without saying, okay, well, this is ridiculous, this is boring. But if you commit to start off just doing 1 minute at a time, and then 2 minutes at a time, and that will get easier. And I would encourage you to start doing that long before you're in the situation, because you want to be used to meditating before you need to meditate. And then the other thing is you want to make sure you get plenty of sleep, because having a lack of sleep, it automatically increases what we call the sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight or flight reaction. Your blood pressure is higher, your pulse is higher, you get more anxious easier, you're shorter with people. If you're not getting enough sleep, you may be drinking more caffeine to try to make up for the lack of sleep. And caffeine can cause those same things, can make your blood pressure go up, can make your pulse rate go up, can make you jittery and irritable. And so if you're in a stressful situation and you're not getting enough sleep and you're irritable, it's much easier to snap at someone or feel more irritable or feel more anxious. Whereas if you're rested, you may not feel the stress from in the same situation. Two people in the same situation, one who is well rested will not get as irritable, will not feel the stress as much as someone who is less well rested. And when you are around other people, and again, this is more for family, but it could be for anybody really, you want to avoid conflict with others. So you try not to replay past hurts. So, you don't want to think about, well, she did this to me when I was 12, or he did this to me when this was going on, and then you bring up these past hurts and you have these same arguments again. And so it's important for you to not bring up these old things, but also it's a good thing for you to have a response if someone else tries to bring up these old things. Because remember, you can't control what anybody else does. You can only control what you do, and you can only control your response to what they do. So if you have someone in your family that every time you see them, they bring up something that happened a number of years ago, and you just don't want to talk about it anymore, think about, okay, well, they usually say this, this, and this. But when they do that, what am I going to do? How am I going to respond? Come up with several different things that you could use as a response. And you want to role play. You want to practice that ahead of time so that you have those responses ready to go if it happens. Because you don't want to be in a situation where you have the same thing again. So if you have this person does the same thing they always do and you do the same thing you always do, that same stress is going to be there like it always is. So it's a good idea to get into the habit so you have the kind of these practice new responses in your back pocket ready to pull out if they come at you with the old responses. And so if you are someone that doesn't have anybody to share the holidays with, especially if you're someone that you feel bad, you feel sad because you don't have anybody to share the holidays with, you might want to consider volunteering. There are plenty of groups that would love to have volunteers because a lot of times people who normally volunteer with the groups don't volunteer as much during the holidays because they're busy doing other things. So if you're someone who normally does not volunteer and you want to find something to do during the holidays, find a group that you are interested in their mission and call them up and see if they need volunteers around the holidays, especially things like, food kitchens or things like that always need help around the holidays because they have more people that they're serving and they have fewer of their regular volunteers. So your help will be greatly appreciated by these organizations, and it will also help give you a sense of purpose. It will keep you from feeling lonely and sad and sitting in your house and watching TV and watching all the TV shows and the movies about the holidays with the happy families sitting around the turkey and singing carols around the Christmas tree and, spinning the dreidel and doing all that kind of stuff. So think of something that you feel like will give you a sense of purpose, that will feel like you are meaning something to someone else, even if it's not someone that you know, even if it's not someone that you will ever see again, because it's a good way to connect with other people during the holidays, or it's really any time of year, but especially during the holidays, because it is very common for people to feel depressed or sad or blue during the holidays. Even if they normally don't have depression, but especially if you're someone that already has depression, it is really common for the depression to get worse during the holidays. There are some people who have what we call seasonal affective disorder, which is people who have depression just during the winter months because of the lack of light. So that's slightly different because that's where you're depressed for the whole winter season, essentially. But I'm talking more about just feeling depressed around the holidays. As the holidays start approaching, you're fine. Even though the days are getting shorter, you're fine. But then as soon as people start talking about Hanukkah or Christmas or New Year's or Thanksgiving or any of the winter holidays, you start feeling more and more depressed. And that's a little bit different than what I was talking about before, where you're just feeling kind of sad and blue and lonely because you don't have anybody to share the holidays with. But if you feel like you may be depressed to where it's starting to impact your life, it's starting to impact your ability to function, which means you're having trouble functioning at work. If you do have people in your neighborhood that you normally do things with, or people you are spending time with, friends, family, loved ones, and you feel like you're feeling more emotionally withdrawn, you don't want to see them, you feel like your appetite is less, you're sleeping less, you're more anxious, you're crying easier, you're feeling more moody, any of those kind of things are symptoms of depression, which is more than just feeling sad around the holidays. If you feel like you are having any of those symptoms during the holidays, you definitely want to seek help from a professional who can diagnose if it is depression, and if it is depression, get you treated. The best person to start with is your family physician, because they can determine if it is depression, and if they feel like medicine is needed, then they can certainly get you started on that. If they feel like you need to see a therapist, they can refer you to that. If they feel like you need to see a psychiatrist, they can refer you there as well. But they can definitely get the ball rolling if you have a relationship with a family physician. If you don't, if you want to seek out a psychiatrist or a therapist as a first line to get evaluated and treated, by all means, that is perfectly fine as well. But the main thing is you don't want to let that depression get worse and worse and worse, because eventually it will get to the point where you're not functioning, and then it makes it harder for you to seek help once the depression gets so bad that you just are so internalized, you just don't really want to interact with the world at all. So it really is important to try to eliminate the stress during the holidays, not so much just so it can eliminate the holiday blues or the depression, but it's also so you can enjoy the spirit of the holidays, because the spirit of the holidays is about coming together as a community, whether it's friends, family, neighbors, just groups of people who are seeking a common goal. It's always a good thing to do that. And the other holiday that I have not really talked about much is New Year's, because it's kind of, it's the end of the year, but it is considered part of the holiday season. And a lot of times people are fine during the other holidays, but they have a problem with New Year's because that's the start of a new year. So a lot of times people will start to kind of think about their life and think about their year, and that can cause some of that depression that we talked about as well. So you don't want to try to compare your life to anybody else. You don't want to let the calendar make you feel bad about how the year went or what things went, that you're not where you want to be in your relationships or your job or your life or anything like that. So you want to think of it as a way to, you can think of it as a way to reassess, but you don't want to think of it as the only time of the year to reassess. Because, the whole New Year's resolution thing, oh, well, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to stop smoking, I'm going to do this, this, and this. It's always a good idea to, if you have those goals, to do it throughout the year as opposed to just waiting for this arbitrary New Year's date. But so we've talked a lot about how you can make your holiday season happier and healthier and saner, hopefully. And so hopefully you can use some of these tips so that you won't be feeling as frenzied and frazzled and stressed out as you have possibly been in holiday seasons past. So you can enjoy the season as it was meant to be and enjoy the family and the friends and the camaraderie and the love that goes along with this very special time of year. So in that vein, I am Dr. Alancia Wynn. I hope you have enjoyed today's show, and I will see you next time. Take care.